Hello, everyone. My name is Doris, and I'm 31 years old. Let me share something quite extraordinary with you. Without beating around the bush, because I value your time, I'll dive right in. For the longest time, I believed I was headed towards an unremarkable life. I never envisioned myself achieving anything beyond the ordinary, so I embraced a peaceful, albeit simple existence. I was content, honestly. My husband, Mason, is the epitome of chill. He's the kind of person you just get along with effortlessly. We weren't the couple to bicker over trivial matters. Our evenings were simple. Come home, exchange stories about our day, and maybe get lost in a series or two. It was the definition of plain, comfortably plain. Enter Melissa, my mother-in-law, and contrary to the clichés, she wasn't the villain of the tale. I was thankful for her presence. She was kind and affectionate and welcomed me as if I were her own. Our conversations over coffee, shopping trips, and her family recipes were treasures to me. However, a time came when this ordinary life started to feel confining. Approaching my late 20s, each day mirrored the last, and I found myself craving something more. My job wasn't dreadful, nor was my life unhappy, but it lacked fulfillment. Deep down, I felt destined for greater things. The world was evolving, with the internet at its forefront. People were embracing remote work, launching their ventures, living life on their terms, and there I was, stationary in my cubicle, living the same day over and over. It wasn't that I harbored dreams of grandeur or aspired to revolutionize the world. I simply yearned for more from life, more from myself. I longed to tap into my potential, to discover what I could accomplish beyond the confines of an 8 to 4. So I began to dream, to envision a life where I could work online, independently, exploring various avenues. This dream wasn't about fleeing my job, but about pursuing a passion that truly excited me. As time passed, this dream crystallized, and my resolve to leave my job for something more meaningful solidified. The idea of breaking free from my cubicle's chains and uncovering what truly sparks joy within me grew irresistible. Yet hesitation lingered. How would Mason feel? Our life was stable, predictable, and almost ideal. We had our routines and our comfort zones. The thought of stepping out of this safety net was daunting, but the desire for more was too compelling to ignore. I didn't want to risk our family's financial stability and harmony by following what some might consider just my whims. Yet, the more I pondered, the clearer it became. I had to discuss this with Mason. This feeling wasn't a mere impulse. It felt like a deep-seated calling I couldn't just push aside. So, one evening after we'd finished dinner, I gathered all my courage for a heart-to-heart. We settled onto the couch, a familiar spot for our countless conversations. Taking a deep breath and looking into his eyes, I opened up about my thoughts. "Hey, Mason, can we chat for a bit?" "Of course, Doris. What's on your mind?" "You know, it's about my job. I've been feeling trapped lately. I've noticed. Is everything okay at work?" "It's not that work is terrible, it's just that. I crave something more, something different." "Different? How so?" "I'm thinking of leaving my job to explore new paths. I'm not entirely sure what yet, but there's this strong desire in me to find something that ignites my passion. Doris, if you need this to be happy and fulfilled, I'm fully behind you. Your happiness is my priority. We'll figure out the details as we go." "Really? You're not upset or worried about money?" "Not in the slightest. We can work through the financial details together, and I'd love to help brainstorm ideas with you." "Mason, you're incredible. I love you so much." "I love you too, Doris. We're in this together, and I'll support you every step of the way." With Mason's unwavering support, we began to explore possibilities and directions for my new venture. I was drawn to the idea of starting my own business, Perhaps selling my crafts and artwork online. Though the future was uncertain, I felt more determined and inspired by Mason's encouragement than ever. It seemed like everything was falling into place. But life has its twists. One afternoon, I found myself sitting across from Melissa, sipping lattes during one of our regular catch-ups. Conversation flowed easily until I decided it was time to discuss the decision that had been weighing on my mind. Melissa, there's something important I need to talk to you about. It's a big change I'm considering. Oh dear, you know you can talk to me about anything. What's been on your mind? Well, I've been thinking a lot about my job and I'm considering quitting. The journey of sharing my decision with Melissa was the next step, one filled with uncertainties and hopes. I've been thinking a lot about venturing into something new, possibly launching my own business to market my crafts online. It's something that excites me. That's quite the thought, dear. But are you sure you've thought this through completely? Melissa asked, her tone shifting slightly. Yes, I've discussed it with Mason, and he's behind me all the way. I just feel I need a change, something that brings more satisfaction and purpose to my life, I explained, hoping for her understanding. Doris, this sounds incredibly self-centered. You have a steady job, a loving husband, and a life many would envy. Why would you want to give that up on a whim? The people around us in the cafe seemed as taken aback by her sudden outburst as I was. I hadn't anticipated such a strong reaction, especially from Melissa, whom I always saw as supportive and nurturing. Her words felt like a slap in the face. I'm not trying to be reckless. I just want to find something that truly makes me happy, something meaningful. I don't understand why you're so against this, I countered, my voice shaking. Meaning? You're married, Doris. You should be thinking about your family, not chasing after fanciful, unrealistic dreams. It's possible to care for your family and still pursue your dreams. I won't neglect my duties. Well, you better figure out how then, because as it stands, you're about to make a grave error. I'm frankly disappointed, she concluded. The rest of our coffee meeting was strained, to say the least, and her words lingered with me, sowing seeds of doubt. Returning home, dispirited and confused, I recounted the ordeal to Mason. Mason, you won't believe Mom's reaction when I shared my plans. She was livid, accusing me of selfishness and negligence towards my duties as a wife. Really? I thought she'd be supportive, excited even. What exactly did she say? He asked, clearly surprised. She called me selfish, said I was making a colossal mistake, and insisted I should prioritize my role as a wife above all else. Are you serious? That's so unlike her. Doris, don't let Mom's reaction deter you. What's most important is that you're happy and fulfilled. But Mason, what if she's right? What if I am being unreasonable? Maybe I should just drop the whole idea. No, Doris. You've been feeling this way for some time. It's not just a passing phase. Remember, your happiness and fulfillment are crucial. We'll navigate this together, okay? Mason's words were the reassurance I needed to remind me why I started considering this path in the first place. Despite the uncertainty, I knew deep down that pursuing my dreams was the right choice, even if it meant facing opposition from those I held dear. Seeing how passionate you are about this, I can't fathom why she reacted so negatively. It was totally unexpected, but I have every bit of confidence in you. Do you really believe in me that much? Absolutely. You're incredibly skilled and versatile. Even though you're not entirely sure what direction you want to take yet, I'm convinced you're going to excel in whatever you choose to do. That means the world to me, Mason. Your faith in me gives me so much strength. I'm going to show your mom and anyone else who doubts me that I can turn this dream into a reality. With Mason's unwavering support, I threw myself wholeheartedly into crocheting. I stocked up on vibrant yarns, hooks and supplies, and even turned our dining room into a dedicated space for my new venture. Handing in my resignation at my mundane job felt like the first step towards a thrilling adventure. I spent my days crafting an array of items: scarves, hats, keychains, home decor, and blankets. The beginnings were modest and success seemed distant, but my resolve never wavered. Gradually, my confidence in my crochet abilities grew, and I began to develop my unique patterns. Launching an online store on Shopify was a significant milestone, and the influx of positive feedback and sales confirmed that I was on the right path. However, any hopes that my success might soften Melissa's stance were quickly dashed. Our relationship hit a new low during one of her visits. She had come over to use our laundry machine, and upon seeing my crochet projects scattered about, her reaction was one of outright disdain. "Doris, what in the world is this chaos? This is my crochet work. I've started that small business I mentioned to you. Here, take a look at my Shopify shop. It's been going well. Maybe I could make something special for you." Her face contorted with a look of sheer displeasure as she surveyed my creations, treating them as though they were somehow beneath her. "Crocheting, Doris? Is this really how you choose to spend your time?" Her words were cutting, dismissing not just my work but my passion and effort as trivial. Despite the sting of her disapproval, it only fueled my determination to prove her wrong and succeed on my terms. The frustration within me was reaching its peak. How could she dismiss my dreams and hard work so carelessly? "Look, I'm exploring a new path, something that truly excites me. If you can't offer your support, then perhaps it's best if you leave," I found myself saying, more out of hurt than anger. Melissa's reaction was immediate and intense, a barrage of insults that left me stunned. Here I was, in my own home, being treated with utter disdain. "How dare you suggest I leave? I came here to help, and this is the thanks I get." "Help? Your words are anything but supportive. They're downright hurtful," I retorted, frustration clear in my voice. "And just how successful has this new venture of yours been? How much have you earned?" she demanded, skepticism written all over her face. I hesitated, my pride wounded, before admitting, "I've made about $350 so far." Her laughter in response was like a slap in the face. "Only $350? Doris, you're fooling yourself. It's time to stop this folly and return to a real job." "That's not an option anymore. I've resigned from my job," I said, a mix of defiance and dread filling my voice. Her reaction was one of pure shock and anger, as if I had just announced the unthinkable. It was as if she had morphed into someone unrecognizable, her demeanor suddenly foreign and intimidating. "You quit your job without even consulting me? That's the height of irresponsibility. I wasn't aware I needed your approval to make decisions about my own life," I shot back, the tension between us thickening by the second. The situation escalated quickly, with Melissa taking her frustration out on my crochet projects and scattering them in a fit of rage. That was my breaking point. "Enough, Melissa. You need to leave now, or I'm calling the police." I had never felt such anger, yet I knew I had to defend my dreams against anyone who tried to belittle them. She hesitated, perhaps thinking I was bluffing, but the determination in my stance was clear. Reluctantly, she left, but not without hurling one last insult my way. "You're a failure as a mother and wife, and you'll never be good enough for my son." Left in the silence of my home, a mix of anger, frustration, and hurt overwhelmed me. Her words had cut deep, leaving a wound that wasn't easy to ignore. When Mason came home that evening, he found me in a state of emotional turmoil, visibly shaken by the day's events. Mason spent the day defending me in a heated phone conversation with his mom, who had tried to sway him to her side after storming out of my house. But Mason, ever the supportive and fair partner, stood firmly by me, rejecting his mother's baseless criticisms. "You wouldn't believe the kind of day I've had." Mom's been on the phone throwing accusations about you. It's been surreal. I can't fathom why she's acting out like this, he told me. We sat down and I recounted the events of Melissa's visit, pondering over the possibility of her jealousy towards my burgeoning passion, a thought that bewildered me. Why would your mom act so spitefully, Mason? It's as if she's set on bringing me down, I expressed, confused and hurt. Mason was visibly conflicted, caught between his roles as a son and a husband. When I suggested jealousy might be at play, he was initially reluctant. I don't know, Doris. It seems so outlandish, but I'm struggling to find any other explanation, he admitted. Ultimately, Mason proposed that some distance might do Melissa and me good, hoping time would soften her stance. Maybe you're on to something, he conceded. Despite the turmoil, I resolved to channel my frustration into my crochet work, determined to prove Melissa's disparaging remarks wrong. She thinks I'm not good enough? I'll show her and everyone just how wrong she is, I vowed, pouring my energy into my craft. My determination paid off. Before long, my crochet business, aptly named Not Your Average Creations, was flourishing. With an engaging online store, my website, and a loyal customer base, I even introduced crochet starter kits, which became an instant favorite among beginners eager to dive into the craft. The success was beyond what I had envisioned, bringing in about $7,000 monthly, with prospects only looking up as I planned to expand my team. Mason, our children, and I were ecstatic. My dream wasn't just alive, it was thriving, proving that passion coupled with hard work can indeed turn aspirations into reality. Then, an incredible opportunity knocked in. A wealthy client expressed interest in investing in my business. It felt like the ultimate affirmation of my journey, a tangible sign that I had not only proved my doubters wrong, but had also built something truly special. Imagine the excitement coursing through me as my business took off, making me feel like nothing was out of reach. However, the thorn in my side, Melissa, decided it was time to stir the pot again. After our significant fallout, she reappeared, this time visibly outraged at the sight of our home brimming with crochet projects. To my utter disbelief, she slammed down divorce papers on our table. Yes, divorce papers, alleging that my silly hobby was tearing our family apart. My heart raced as I looked at those papers, with Mason, my steadfast supporter, equally taken aback. Melissa's threat to force a divorce on us, blaming me entirely, escalated tensions to a boiling point. Mason and Melissa's exchange quickly grew heated, but I couldn't stand idly by. I stepped in, facing Melissa squarely, my resolve steeling me. I firmly told her that quitting my thriving business was out of the question, especially now, with an investor on board and potential earnings that could soar to $162,000 a month by year's end. At the mention of the figure, Melissa's demeanor shifted from fury to mortification. You heard right, $162,000 a month, and you don't need to say anything. Since you're so keen on me leaving, I'll just do that, I said, bluffing to make her reconsider, even as I saw Mason's alarmed reaction. Melissa, now desperate, pleaded with me not to go, a stark contrast to her earlier stance. I reminded her this was what she had demanded, questioning her sudden change of heart. Mason, can you believe this? After all the trouble she's caused, she flips the script the moment she hears about the money. It's shameful, I remarked, astounded by her about-face. Don't you dare speak to me like that. I'm still your mother, Melissa retorted, though her argument was weak, faced with her contradictions. This bizarre turnaround, driven by the prospect of financial gain, exposed the shallowness of Melissa's earlier convictions. It was a moment of reckoning, revealing that beneath the bluster and threats lay a simple truth. Success and perseverance could not only triumph over skepticism, but also turn the most ardent doubter into an unwilling admirer. From the beginning, Melissa's disapproval of my crochet venture was palpable. "I'm determined to make this work, Melissa. If you don't want to be part of my success, that's your choice," I told her, my patience wearing thin. "Doris, please, I didn't mean what I said. I was just scared you'd fail," Melissa responded, her tone softening. Her sudden shift from antagonism to vulnerability puzzled me. Why the sudden change? You weren't just concerned, you were outright hostile. Taking a moment, Melissa confessed to facing health issues that had left her embittered. Her years working in an agricultural factory had exposed her to harmful substances, resulting in respiratory problems. She lamented the years spent in a job she detested, now paying the price with her health. Melissa admitted that her outburst was fueled by jealousy over my potential success, a stark contrast to her work history marred by sacrifice and now illness. Her story shifted my perception slightly. She viewed my success as a beacon of hope, perhaps even a lifeline, given her mounting medical expenses. Despite my initial skepticism over her motives, especially after her previous hostility, I found myself pondering the situation. "Why should I assist you after everything you've done?" I asked, struggling to reconcile her past behavior with her current predicament. "I'm struggling, Doris. I know I've made mistakes, but I'm genuinely in need," Melissa pleaded, her vulnerability laid bare. Mason intervened, suggesting it was time for his mother to leave. We needed space to process the recent revelations and decide our next steps. Melissa's departure was heavy with emotion, her eyes brimming with tears, a sight that, despite everything, tugged at my heartstrings. After she left, Mason and I discussed the situation. He was torn, pained by his mother's actions, yet sympathetic towards her plight. The decision to help was mine to make. Despite Melissa's past behavior, the thought of denying her assistance, especially when our children could benefit from having their grandmother around longer, didn't sit well with me. I resolved to aid her, not out of obligation, but from a place of understanding and compassion. Her journey had been fraught with hardship, and while it didn't excuse her actions, it provided context. However, I decided to let her wait, a small measure of retribution for the turmoil she'd caused. It was a way to assert that respect and support are earned, not entitled. This decision, while complex, reflected a choice to rise above past grievances, fostering a path toward healing and reconciliation.